the day, of the week, possibly, and you say, Crane, all right, that's a big charge. Well, Bruce Thornton, the futility of apology. And once again, we get a history lesson from the history professor himself. Bruce, with you.
Hello, Crane.
How are you? Wanted to open up, and we've heard a lot about the apology, and we've heard reference even in the memorial service today to the film. Yet we heard something very different from a man who was called, well, stupid, not too long ago. And it was former President Bush. Here he is defending the surge in 2008. Roll it.
We're facing people who are willing to strap bombs on themselves and walk into places where the innocent, dwell, or the innocent shop, and kill them. Is it our interest to confront these people now? Whether it be in Afghanistan or Iraq or Europe or anywhere else, and the answer is absolutely it's in our interest. And the notion that somehow we can let these people just kind of have their way, or, let's don't stir them up, is naive or disingenuous, and it's not in our nation's interest. We are in a global struggle against thugs and killers. And the United States of America has got to continue to take the lead.
Okay. So, Bruce, what do you think?
Right on. I mean, he was he nailed it. When people asked what was the point of the Iraq war or in Afghanistan, I said they're like bug lights for jihadists.
Mm-hmm.
They're all going there, and our splendid servicemen are getting rid of them. So this is all you can do with people who are, willing to, as the president said, and as we see, willing to blow themselves up and put their own families at risk and their own people at risk and even their fellow Muslims at risk. You're not going to talk to them. You're not going to reason with them. You're not going to, boost their self-esteem and get them to stop what they're doing.
I want to know, actually the audience knows, I know because I've read your article, but you refer back to, basically doing the same thing over and over again and getting a different result is the definition of insanity. So for those, many in the lady sitting back going, okay, we don't live and breathe this stuff. Tell us, have we tried apologizing before, and how did it work out then?
Absolutely. And what I did with that, with the piece up today was,
yes,
I thought, well, I have to respond to this. And then it struck me, I have responded to this over the past decade, probably 5 or 6 times. Most recently in February, you may remember when there was some accidental burnings of Korans in Afghanistan. And we went through the whole same sorry scenario. There's violence, there's riots, and then our government officials apologize and say, oh, we're sorry, that we really respect your wonderful religion. And it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't help. And this is true with the cartoons, you may remember, that set off the riots, with Pope Benedict's comments in Regensburg that set off riots. There will always be a pretext for the jihadists to attack us because they don't like us. They hate us. We're infidels. Our destiny as an infidel is to convert to Islam, to live as a subject to Islam, or to die. And there's no coexistence, there's no tolerance, there's no mutual respect, there's none of those things that we prize and we believe in. And it just struck me that here we are again, going through the same scenario with the exact same result. And just look at the news today. The apology did not dampen down the riots and the protests. They have increased.
And once again, you point out the contradiction of even using the term tolerance as we are encouraging intolerance.
Yeah, I mean, tolerance for intolerance is incoherent, But this is where the progressive, liberal, secularist, relativist worldview gets you into these sorts of complete contradictions. I was thinking, I've been doing this now for over 10 years. And hammering on this point, and many people have. And it's just, here we are, and it doesn't seem like we're any closer to an accurate understanding of what it is that's going on, that we're in a spiritual struggle, and it's not about, how much we like them, or it's not about whether or not they get to vote, or it's not about how many cable channels they get. or any of the silly things that we think are so important in our culture. It's about different visions of the ultimate reality of God, of how we live their lives. And those kinds of conflicts historically are not ended generally by negotiation. They're ended by force.
As you've written about, and not only in your articles, but your book as well. And here's the question, Bruce, and I've asked you this before, but maybe I'll be more specific and direct. I believe that the way to defeat this enemy is you not only need to defeat them, but you need to humiliate them to make it sure they realize that any notion of going to the horse that's going to provide for jihad and live in that manner is, in essence, a road to death that is immediate for them and their family. I know that sounds harsh, but we have many dead Americans and many people in the world, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, who are being slaughtered. So what is the answer? I want you to tell me how to win the war. If I'm President of the United States, Bruce, I want to win the war, and all things are on the table. Tell me what to do.
Well, we can say what to do, but then we always have to remember what can we do that's politically possible. So,
can we go first with what can we do?
What we do is
what we do.
Okay, what we do is right now we call the Muslim brother so-called president of Egypt, and you say, you put a stop to this, because they can if they want to, believe me. You put a stop to this, or you kiss goodbye the $1 billion in debt relief that we're negotiating, and the future $1.3 billion that you get a year. And that's your choice. And you go to Libya, and don't send 50 Marines in there. Don't send 50 Marines. Send a brigade. Go in there, take control of our embassies there, put the weaponry and the manpower, and the next time something like that begins, it should look like the end of the Wild Bunch, if you remember that movie, or the Alamo, right? If our guys are going to if our guys are going to die, there's going to be a mountain of dead jihadists surrounding them when they do. And this business of sending Marines over with no ammunition, and engaging in all this pathetic diplomatic, they're just a tiny handful, and the Libyans like us, and all this nonsense. This is getting us nowhere. All it does is breed contempt for us.
So that's what we can do.
Well, now
in the sense of
the second question, is that politically possible?
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't think so right now in this country. 60 years ago, it would have been. And just go back and look at what happened in December 1941 and the reaction of this country then. And you see we've come a long way from what we were.
And is that because we haven't accepted that human nature does not change, that we, in the sense of fallen, and that there is evil, and evil must be confronted? Because when people go back and take out context of, even the president made context, we have a special responsibility being the only country to use nuclear weapons. He's removing the fact that saved lives.
Exactly.
So help us out here, Bruce.
Well, the foundations of our beliefs have eroded, and those foundations lay in our relationship with God and faith, because there they are not subject to negotiation. You don't have to stop and think, I know we believe that, but maybe those other people are. I mean, there's none of that kind of nonsense going on, And when you don't have a sure foundation for your beliefs, then they free float. You see what I mean? Then they're negotiable. Then you say, okay, well, we'll give up a little. And before you know it, then you're the victim of those who do have a very passionate attachment to their beliefs, and that's the jihadist Islamists, right? They believe so much they will strap on a suicide vest and blow you and your children and themselves and their children up. So what you're confronting is the West has become a people, not completely. I don't think it's all done, but a significant number of us simply no longer know what we believe, or believe that our foundational principles, ethics, morals, etc., lay with God. And I think that's a lot of what the problem is.
And Bruce, just tell me what you foresee, history telling you, what do we foresee in the upcoming months Does this die down? Do we see an increase of it? And would you advise the president ever to mention that movie again?
Well, I think that a lot's going to depend on the election, obviously. You're going to see this continuation of this what's been going on in Europe that we're approaching to, this slow motion sort of suicide, the slow motion appeasement, this granting of more and more and more, more abandonment of Israel as is going on now. If Iran gets nuclear weapons, then the whole thing changes. Then we've made a quantitative leap into a whole other unpleasant reality. And I don't believe it's something that's going to happen overnight or even over years. It's just going to be this slow decline until our children or our grandchildren wake up and the United States isn't the United States anymore. The United States.
Bruce Thornton. Okay, now I'm even sicker than I was. But I love your work, and anybody who takes on John Lennon, because I think we have a John Lennon idea of foreign policy, which is absurd.
Absolutely.
A great closer to your article today. I will post the article, but the book is The Wages of Appeasement, Ancient Athens, Munich, and Obama's America. Our special guest, Bruce Thornton. Thank you for taking time on short notice and a Friday night to address this crisis.
My pleasure.
Great to be with you.
Take care,
my friend. All right, now, coming up, we've got, you're going to hear the full story on the media bias and writing the narrative. Plus, we will be joined by a very special guest. Crane Durham, Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk, live from the Values Voters Summit.